What is up, guys? Welcome on back to TK's Garage. And I don't know, is Ram dead at this point? You know, we've seen some of the testing, like they have vehicles that they're actively testing in terms of Ram trucks with a V8. But I just got done watching a Racer X video, and I gotta be honest, you know, he probably has a better relationship with Tim Kuniskis directly than I do. And no V8 coming to the Ram anytime soon. Now, that could mean 2027, 2028. That's expected. But if they're not doing that, Ram is dead. Like, you can close up Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram now, because that's a wrap. Perfect. What is up, guys? Welcome on back to TK's Garage. And I hate to say it, but even with the massive cuts in MSRP, which now maybe it makes more sense. Now, I saw Racer X's video, and he was talking about the mid-size Ram that's coming, which we've been talking about for 2 months now. And that they were going to be, you know, making one of those at Belvedere, maybe making the one off the Gladiator platform at Toledo, maybe making the Rampage at Belvedere, and maybe even moving the Hornet to Belvedere. But what I'm finding very interesting is the talk of no V8s. And it's funny, and it almost looks like, I'm wondering if Antonio Filosa is giving Tim Kuniskis marching orders and has said, you know, I want you to float a no V8 option, like no V8s, in some interviews so that they can see what happens. Because he's done this a couple of times now, saying that, you know, we're not saying the V8 is ruled out, we're just saying, you know, it's just not happening right now. And that's where we're at right now, right? Nobody's buying this inline six Hurricane garbage. And that's what that engine is. And even Racer X conceded that towards the end of his video, where he said, we'll see where the reliability is later. They're not. They're not. Just Google it. Look up in the forums. Look at the friggin' Wagoneers that have them. Look at the people that already have Rams. Look at the service advisors who have done posts on Reddit and Facebook saying that this vehicle is a friggin' disaster. In fact, I have a Stellantis engineer that wrote me an entire thing on this engine and how one of their last acts before they were let go or fired was telling Stellantis that this engine was not going to be reliable. And there was reasons for it. The heat, where the turbos are at, all kinds of other stuff. And I'm going to break it down because they gave me a whole long thing. And this is verified from engineers that worked at Stellantis when they were developing this engine. And they rushed it out. I'm telling you right now, Ram can cut. You can cut the MSRP by 35%. But if you still have an inline six Hurricane engine as your best option, and now they're talking about maybe making Pentastar versions of this truck now, you know, or having, you know, the 3.6 and the 3.0, that's just stupid. We already know that the gas mileage on the Hurricane is not comparable when towing to the Hemi, right? Now, I've seen the comments. I had another engineer message me today that still works at Stellantis that said, hey, you know, they can't put the 6.4 in the 1500 because it requires a heavy duty, you know, cross member or something under the engine. Okay, that makes sense. And they can't use the 5.7 from the Durango because it doesn't bolt up the same way. I don't know about that. The only reason why I say that is, and I don't know, maybe the Aspen, because it was built on an older Durango version. I had a 2014 Durango that I bought from Copart that had been wrecked, right? And it's the current body style or whatever. And there was no fixing it, but I needed to put another engine in another Aspen that I had that was a 2009, I believe. Now, granted, I had to do some other stuff with like the wiring harnesses and some other stuff, but the engine was able to be moved from that Durango to my Aspen, and I had no problems. So I don't know. Maybe there's something I don't get when it comes to how that engine would be mounted, but I don't see any reason why they couldn't, or the part supplier is no longer with Stellantis that made the, the bottom cross member or whatever for that, to hold that engine. Go get him back under contract. It's not hard. But I'm just going to say this now. I'm looking at the stuff that Tim Kuniskis is saying in interviews, and it's not looking good. All right, I was excited to see him come back. I thought maybe John Elkann was conceding, and it seems some other information is now coming out with the meetings with John Elkann and President Trump and his people, that they want to keep the regulations in place because they know it's the only thing that can save them if they don't bring out the V8. They know if they don't get the regulations to stay, and GM and Ford go on to making badass cars with V8s, guess what that means for Dodge? Guess what that means for Ram, for Jeep? Chrysler's just a friggin' minivan company at this point. They're done. They're dead. Stick a fork in them. And stick a fork in the entire company of Stellantis. I seen the comment, oh, they sell Opel. DS does really good sales in Europe. Fiat, blah, blah, blah. Listen, man. Fiat might hang around. Vauxhall might hang around. DS, Lancia, I don't know. Maybe they survive. But not as one company. I can tell you that right now. If Stellantis doesn't do... This is very simple. You can make all the cool stuff that you think is cool that you want. If you, the company, think it's cool, you can put marketing behind it. You can do all of that. But if the people you've been serving as customers for 40 years, 50 years, 60 years don't buy in, you're dead. The company is dead. So I'm saying this now. If I'm not seeing something coming out of Stellantis like in the next 30 days where they're talking about some sort of V8 platform coming back, I'm going to short the stock. Again. Because it's going to go. It's going to go down. And I'm going to tell you why it's going to go down. I think the public in Wall Street is going to concede the first quarter. I think if they see any movement that they're getting better sales and they cut MSRP by 30% on these Rams that nobody wants, maybe Jeep, they can make up some sales in Jeep if they cut the price low enough. If that happens, maybe they move a couple of points, they don't die in the first quarter. But if they don't see a significant turnaround and they don't announce something, V8 powered, hell, even a powerful eco diesel, something with power behind it for Ram, they're dead. They're dead. Now, I know what you're going to say. TK, I can't believe you're saying this. I'm just looking at facts. I'm looking at what the current climate is and what it could be for the next 12 years. Because I know what you're saying. Oh, Trump's only in for 4 years. I'm gonna give you, and this is gonna piss off a lot of my liberal friends, but I'm gonna be very honest with you. if Trump turns the economy around and the economy's roaring, gas prices are, you know, low $2 a gallon, eggs, food, stuff like that goes back down, more jobs are created, which is already happening with the UAW, and auto workers are going back up, unions are going to continue to vote that way. When Trump's term is up in 4 years, guess who they're voting for? Probably Vance. So at that point, you're looking at 8 years, and who's going to run against Vance? Gavin Newsom? Seriously? AOC? Really? The one thing that people care about is their mother effing wallet. And I can tell you that right now. So when customers are like, my pockets are fat, I'm making good money, I'm not paying a ton of taxes, I'm getting things done, crime is down, all this other stuff is happening, right? You think for a second they're going to vote the other way? Yeah, you're going to have some diehard ideologues that are always going to go that way. But we already saw what happened in this election. It didn't happen. People got tired of it. And you think people want to go back to what we just had the last 4 years? And that's going to be the argument. Do you want to stay where things are rocking and rolling? Now, this is only if Trump's able to turn this economy around and it's booming. Emissions get rolled back. People can make cars that they want. And this is where Stellantis is in trouble. Because if they don't jump on the bandwagon, if they don't, and I know they donated money to Trump's inauguration and they're doing all this other crap, but I can tell you right now that there's people in the Senate that are coming for him. Bernie Moreno, newly elected out of the state, is it Ohio that he's from? Car guy, that's a wrap. He wants them to be broken up. He wants Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram back in American hands. And the only thing that I'm worried about is Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram may not get back into American hands until Stellantis goes bankrupt. And then at that point, we might not see a truck or a car that people actually want until 2029, 2030, and then it's too late. It's too late. Stellantis is at a pivotal crossroads right now. Elkin knows it. That's why he came here, and he was begging Trump and begging them to have Lee Zeldin to keep the regulations in place. But I can tell you right now, that's not going to happen. The administration has already signaled. Ford is already on board. General Motors is already on board. You're going to see exciting products coming out of GM and Ford. It's going to happen. Is Stellantis ready to rise to the challenge, like John Elkin said, and make a change? And not just any change, make a change to products that consumers want. Go back to being that value muscle car brand. Not this food stamp, wannabe Tesla, dick riding ass company that they've become now. Because that's exactly what Stellantis has done to Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. And I got to be honest with you, I am extremely disappointed about the stuff that I've been hearing coming out from Tim Kuniskis. People were excited. You could see it in the stock. It actually started moving in the right direction. But I can tell you right now, Wall Street people are paying attention. Enthusiasts are paying attention. And those two together can bankrupt Stellantis. They better get with the times. You can still make electric vehicles. You can have your dumbass Dodge Charger EV. You can have your dumbass Wagoneer S. And you can go ahead and process warranty repairs and recalls on those for the next, 3 to 5 years. But what I can tell you right now, for certain, is that if a change doesn't happen and we don't see positive traction, even if it's just words right now, that's a wrap. And what I saw out of Racer X's video, from what he says he's hearing from Tim Kuniskis, it shocks me because I just was in Detroit for the auto show. And I told you I had meetings, I had conversations with people at Stellantis. And I didn't hear that. I heard that they're going to get back to making vehicles that people want. The biggest thing they needed was regulations to be rolled back. Regulations have been rolled back. They're being rolled back. There is no excuse at this point. So if something doesn't change in the next 6 months, bye-bye Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. They may live on, they may be around, but they will be a former shell of themselves, like what you see of Mitsubishi now today, from what Mitsubishi was in the 90s and early 2000s. That's what you're going to see out of Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Jeep might be the only thing that survives. Ram, no one's going to buy that. You'd have to price that thing so cheap, and they're not going to do it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Give the video a big thumbs up if you like what I do. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And as always, stay petty, my friends. And it sucks that we might, I'm in a Ram. Sucks we may never hear this again.